The next method we're going to look at for transferring our design onto fabric is actually by making our own templates, which is a lot easier than it sounds. You can buy them, commercially made templates, and they are really good. But for anyone stuck at home or you haven't got access to online shopping, this is an ideal way of doing it. First of all, just prepare your fabric. Now this has got an intended use. This is going to be a small bag, a small purse, which we'll do by the end of this video. So what I've done, I've mounted the blue on a strip of calico, and it measures 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. It's 13 inches by 1, 2, 3, 4 by 5. So it's going to be quite a small purse, but you could have yours any size you want to make it. So I have put the backing fabric, or the fabric that we're going to be working on, onto backing fabric of calico. Okay, there's no interfacing in this at all. It's just the two pieces of fabric as you can see them. And I've tacked all the way around there, or basted all the way around there. Now I did that off camera because you all know how to do this, so I thought I won't waste your time by showing you. So that is our fabric that's ready now to be used. Now we're going to use a template that we've made, and it's called Waves. We're going to work with a design called Waves. Now the waves, as it sounds, will go like this, like waves, beautiful like waves. Okay, so what I've done, I've already made some here. Now it's quite time consuming. It's something you can't really rush because they all have to be basically the same. So that is my template. Okay, now I have used this, and that is why it's a bit scruffy, and it's longer than this fabric because it was quite long. So that is the basic template, which will then be lifted off and placed here. Okay, now how did I do this? Well, there's a couple of ways of doing this. Now you can do it freehand. Now it takes time to do it freehand because you have to keep refining until you get a nice arc. So I did one set freehand, and it's just a matter of refining until they all look the same, and that could take some time, but it's a very nice thing to do. It really is. You just keep going over it as if you're sketching, do several lines, and eventually you get the line that you want. Oh no, see, look, no, I'm going to get carried away now. So that is one way of doing them. Now you only need 2 rows, or a row and a half to be precise. So I've got one arc there and 1 row of arcs there, so 2 arcs. Now that really won't take long. Don't be daunted by doing this, because it's just so relaxing, and you just get the hang of it. And as I say, eventually, if you do enough lines, you get the line amongst all this lot. You get the line that you actually want. Oh no, someone take the pencil. Someone grab the pencil quickly, because I'm in danger of just going on and on and on. But anyway, there you go. That one looks skinny, so do some more lines and maybe take some in there. So when you get the lines that you want, you then, now this is the fun bit, I'm going to have to use these scissors. Right, where's my ruler? Oh, I can't find the ruler, I can't see the ruler there. So you get the fun bit, just going to cut along there, and then you're going to cut right the way around the shape, all the way around like this. Obviously this needs refining, so all the way around like so. Now you might only want to do 2, get 2 perfect, and then you can just keep repeating those 2. You don't have to do it as I've done it. And then you're going to cut out all these pieces here. Okay, so there we go, very, very quickly. Oh, sorry, I hope that last bit was on the camera. Right, so you're going to cut all those pieces out here. Now the bits in between, they need to be cut out as well. So, all you purists, look away now, because I'm using my embroidery scissors to cut these pieces out here. And look how much fun this is. Oh, paper and scissors. So you cut them all out all the way along, and that will give you your paper template. Now I don't need to cut all these out because I think you've probably got the gist of it now. Okay, so you imagine these cut out now, and you'll end up with this. Now as you can see, because I needed mine for a fair size piece of work, I cut mine out in plastic, and the plastic was from a plastic folder. You can buy these folders in Poundland, and I think there's something like 4 for, obviously, for £1. Although not obviously now, because there's a lot of stuff in Poundland that's more than £1. But you buy these folders, they're like big envelopes, and look, there are 4 different colours in the pack, and that is what I cut mine from. Okay, but you could do it just with paper, and you end up with your template like this. Now to make sure that doesn't move when you're using it, you can use these are dots, glue dots, and they're really good. No, that isn't. Oh gosh. These are glue dots, and these are really good for all sorts of craft work, for holding tracing paper down to the table and lots of things. Now believe me, there are dots there, glue dots, and if I just run a pen over it, if I run this whiteboard marker, can you see that dot there? That's the dot there, and we just take that off like so. It's rolled up, obviously. Now you can also do that with this double-sided sticky tape, just a tiny piece of that. This is actually tougher than the dots. Or if you haven't got that, even you can use a little bit of sellotape, or if you haven't got that, pin it in place. The pins tend to get in the way a little bit because they're not flexible enough to bend with your needle. So I've already got some dots on here from the last time I used this. Yeah, not too. There's my row of waves here. I think I need to just straighten this one up like that. Lovely. And that is ready for sewing. Now what I will do, I'll go along here and then I shall bring it back on itself, although I have got some more here that I can stick it down in place. If only they are sticky. So that one will go there. Okay, but for the time being I'm just going to quickly show you now how to go. Now waves, it has a sequence to follow, but I think it's quite logical anyway. It's just around here, over here, one way, and then you get to the end and you come back the other way. Right, now I don't like saying start on the left, start on the right, because for those of you with fine motor control issues, or prefer to work from right to left or left to right, or for all sorts of reasons, you develop your own way. So I'm going to start from here, and all I'm going to do is follow the outline of the template. Now I've changed my needle at this stage. This is just an ordinary sewing needle, which is just fine. It has a lovely eye. You don't have to have the very long needle. This is just lovely, and it goes through the fabric. Lovely. So we're just going to follow the template all the way round. This way. And then this will be repeated underneath. Okay, so it will, the red will follow all the arcs all the way around here, and then it's going to follow the arcs around here as well. But that, if you only have one template, then you're going to have to move it. You're going to have to take it off, and then you'll move it. Oh gosh, these are so fine. Then you'll move it and you will drop it down like this. So then you'll end up with your waves. You'll have the red thread round there, round that arc. Then you'll have it round this arc, and then you'll have it round this arc. Okay, now if your arcs aren't really rounded, like some of mine are a bit dodgy looking, refine them as you go along and do your stitching. So from this angle you can see round here, look, some of mine are thin and some are short and are higher than the others. Just carry on sewing, but keep an eye on them and refine the round shape of the arc. I did the red line first, and then I've used white either side of the red, and I just think that looks nice. It gives it a bit of a lift. Now as soon as you're sure that you've completed your sewing and you've done enough stitching, you need to cut out some borders. You need to cut out 2 borders. Now mine are 2 inches wide here and as long as my fabric, and as I say, I have 2. I'm going to pin them either side of my sewing, edge to edge, like so, and then as soon as they're in place, they're nicely pinned edge to edge here, and I've allowed for about 1/4 of an inch, 1/2 an inch seam allowance. Now as soon as that's in place, and I only need a couple of pins, I'm going to sew that, machine sew that. You can do that by hand, so don't be put off if you haven't got a sewing machine. I'm going to machine sew that now all the way down there, that side and that side, and then I'm going to open them out and press them. And that is now the front with the border. I wasn't too sure about that fabric actually, but yeah, I'm pleased with that. I picked up 4 placemats in a charity shop, and I think they were £1 for 4 lovely big squares, brand new. They hadn't looked as if they'd been used, but it's just gorgeous fabric. So anyway, that is now the front of our purse stroke bag. Now the back is the same fabric as the border. Now I'm going to put some wadding on here just to give it a little bit of body, a bit of bounce when it's finished. Now this and this needs to be sewn together. So turn the front like so, and then you've got right side to right side, okay, front and back, right sides of the fabric, line them up, and the wadding will go on the front. Sorry, the wadding will go on the back. You see on the back here, and it will be facing up, facing outside, and pin these together all the way round And I do advise that you pin this, because it is a little bit difficult sometimes to work with. Now, if this purse was to be much bigger, I would suggest that you actually put some stitches in the wadding across here, and across there, to hold it in place. But this is going to take a little bit of stitching in its folding, when it's folded. So I don't think it's actually going to need any stitches in the centre to secure it. If it does, then it'll be quite easy to work from the outside. But at this stage, I'm not going to do that. But if you feel happier doing that with yours, then by all means you just pop a few stitches into the wadding, securing it through to the back, the lining. Now you need to leave a gap just to turn this whole thing into the right side. So I'm going to leave a gap of about 3 inches here, making sure that it is one end. You don't want the gap in the middle, because the middle will be where the opening is, and you don't want your join in the middle so you can see it every time you open your purse. So I'm leaving it roughly about there, and to make sure I don't sew over it, I pop a pin that way. Okay, so that is now ready. I'm just going to cut that off because that will annoy me on the sewing machine. And that won't take long. And then this can be turned into the right way through the gap here. Oh, I nearly forgot to trim. Just clip the corners. 1, 2, making sure not to pinch or clip the actual sewing, and that is so easy to do. Oh, that's a bit thick there, so I'm just going to trim that off as well. Lovely, there we go. Now through that gap. Oh goodness, I don't know what's wrong with my eyes, that's all wonky as well. I expect if I took my glasses off and had a look, I've got the wrong glasses on. Right, I'm going to pull this in. Oh, this is always a dodgy moment. It's quite exciting because you don't really know what you're going to get. But that, because you don't know what you're going to get, it's also a bit worrying. Moment of truth. So, good grief, this is tough. Right, I'm going to pull that in like that. Yes, I think that wadding was a good idea actually. It's giving it a nice, just a nice bit of thickness, a bit of padding. Lovely. Right, I need to pull these out, so I want something out. That crochet hook I do. Now when you do this, and I probably say this all the time and get on your nerves because it gets on my nerves, just poke the hook in the corner, just get the corners out as much as you can, bearing in mind they're quite thick with the wadding there. The other two here and there. Lovely. And there we have it. Right, so the next thing I'm going to do is close up this, close up the gap there, and then I'm going to top stitch it along this end. I should press it first, top stitch it along there, and then along there, And then we have the makings of our bag. Now, I'm not going to oversew this, because what I've decided to do, I'm just going to run some stitches, some slow stitch along the borders. Just a little bit, and I think by doing that it's going to totally secure the wadding that's in the middle to stop any movement. So I should do a few rows of slow stitch along here and along here, and then as soon as I've done that I'll get back and it will be time to then make it up. Isn't that pretty? That looks really lovely. It looks nicer on the screen than it does in real life. But this is the gist of how it will look. We need to as well match up the pattern here, so we could bring that down. It actually matches there, doesn't it? So we'll have to bring that down slightly or quite a lot. So we'll have to think about that after I've done the slow stitch along the borders. Okay, so that's not going to take very long at all. So all I'm going to do here with my nice long needle and 6 strands of thread, I'm not going to knot this. I'm not going to knot this at all. I'm just going to take it through the front, anywhere in the front, and I'm going to take the needle to the end where the seam is here. I'm just going to make that big so you can see what I'm doing actually. There. So I've taken the needle in from the front, anywhere in the front, but I'm taking it out at the point here at the top, on or beside the seam, and I'm pulling that through very, very carefully, and just as that disappears I'm going to stop pulling. Okay, now that gives a nice clean edge. There is no knot there, and that isn't going to work loose. So the first row I'm going to do here is in the ditch, and the ditch being the seam here. Now I'm not actually going to go into the seam in case the thickness of this thread breaks the fineness of the sewing machine cotton, so I'm just going to avoid that and just do my stitches all the way along, being guided by that straight line. And you don't need me to show you how to do this now, just a slow stitch in and out and in and out. And if you have a lovely long Sashiko needle like this one, you can get plenty of stitches on your needle. You see that? I'm at an angle here, so I have to keep turning that round. So this is all I'm going to do now. Make a couple of lines, and I will possibly mark the lines in. I'm not sure yet. There we go, and I'll continue doing that both sides. Probably 3, maybe 4 lines of stitching either side. Okay, so I'll make that smaller. Lovely. And I'm going to carry on now. What a nice way to spend a couple of hours. Actually, I reckon it will possibly take an hour to do both borders, just sitting listening to the TV. Okay. Oh, already it's really good, really nice to do. So that's been done now. Front's finished, all done. Now what I didn't do was sew right the way through to the lining. It was far too thick. All these layers and the wadding, also known as batting, was too thick to go through, but I've managed to secure this to the batting, and I have felt the seam allowance of the lining this side, so that batting or wadding is quite secure, and it shouldn't be walking or dancing or going anywhere except just being flat there. Right, it's time now to turn this into the bag or the purse of the size I want. Your size might be different, but I've decided that I want quite a deep part here. I want the pocket to be quite deep, so I've decided on a 4-inch pocket there, so 4 inches, and that will give me something that looks like that. Yeah, so how I'm going to do this is from the inside now, so right side up, and then we're going to find the deep or the depth that you want. And as I said, I want 4 inches, so against this line here, 1 2 3 4 inches there, and pin. Just want to pin that in place there, and I want to do the same here, 4 inches this side, 1 2 3 4. Just alter that a little bit. Yep, that's lovely. Now what I'm going to do is over sew each side, and I'll do that with some strong sewing thread, sewing machine thread here, and I will just over sew. We've done this before, just little stitch over sewing from one side across to the other, and then over sewing from one side across to the other, and that is all you're going to do all the way down this edge and then that edge. So that really won't take long. That is just a couple of minutes to do that. And the last few stitches coming up, and it will have been finished. Right, so just a couple of stitches, a few over sewing stitches here. And I always think that it's best, or it's a good idea, to make the first couple of stitches and the last couple of stitches a bit stronger by over sewing them, just to lock the ends and make a nice strong end, beginning and start I should say. Whoa, that's tough. That is tough. So I finished that now. I'm just going to over sew a couple there, a couple of stitches at the end. Oh, that is so tough. There we go. Now I want to lose this thread. Once I'm sure that that is locked, I'm going to take the needle just through the work, through the fabric, and then I'm going to lose it. I'm going to lose the thread inside there. Once again, no knot. Now that's both sides over sewn now. So the fun bit, once again, and I'm just going to make the screen a bit smaller. That's it, you can get that all in now. Just going to make, sorry, I'm just going to pull this in, and then we will be ready to finish it completely. Right, where's the crochet hook? Let's just push those out. Whoa. God, it is really sturdy. It's tough stuff. Right, now these need to be pulled out to give those a nice well-defined angle there, and I can't, there it is. I'm going to very carefully do it with this. Just push that out very carefully without tearing it. One. Ooh, it's always a bit risky doing it with something as sharp as this, but there is such a lot of fabric there, I can just afford to push it a little bit. But I don't think I'm going to make it any. See, this is fine. It's just a sharp, or it's just like a big needle, so if it does come through, it isn't really going to do much harm. Now I'm going to call that finished. There we go. There's the back and the front, and this will come over here, and we need to match that up. And I think so. Now the bag's actually finished. I've lined up the pattern here. If you can see that the pattern isn't broken, I've lined that up and I've placed 2 pins here. There's one there and there's one here, and that is telling me where to place the clasp. Okay, now that is also telling me where the top of the, or the bottom I should say, of the flap stops. It's to stop there and not go any further. If it goes any further, then the whole pattern's messed up. So it's got to stop there. So the next thing to do is to actually put the clasp on. Now the clasp is just a piece of broken jewellery, and I'm not really sure what that is, whether it belongs to a brooch or something like that. I've no idea if that opens or what it does, but this is what I'm going to use here on the clasp, sorry, on the edge. And then I'm just going to put an ordinary wooden bead there, so this will come over like so and hopefully act as a closure. So for the time being, I'm just going to pop the clasp on. Now I'm going to sew this down with embroidery thread. I'm not making a knot. I'm going to take the needle in quite away from where I want it. Now I want it there, and then I'm going to lose the end of the thread inside the bag. So there's no knot showing here, no knot there, but that thread, the thread from the silk, should be round about here somewhere. Now I want to line those up, sit that there, and make sure that is, I think that must be about half. Okay, and then I'm just going to over sew this on, just a few little stitches. And I've twisted that already. A few little stitches here. I'll make that a little bit bigger just so you can see what I'm doing. That's better. So here we are. I've just gone through, there's a hole there. So I've gone through that hole with the needle. It's a nice needle, sturdy needle. Nice sharp needle. Now I don't want to pull it too much, otherwise I should pull the thread out, because don't forget there isn't a knot there. So until I do a few over sewing stitches, I just want to be careful that I don't pull it out. Now it won't, oh that's it, it's locked. I can feel that's locked. It won't take very long or very many stitches to secure that. Whoa. Right, yep, and I think that's done. So what was that? That was about 5 or 6. We'll call this 6. So 6 over sewing stitches. Yeah, that's lovely and locked. That's quite tight there. So I'm going to take this out now. Again, I'm going to lose the end inside the lining. There we go. Look, quite a long way down, and I'm just going to pull it through. Oh, that's tough. That's tough. So I know that it's quite secure inside the, oh my goodness, inside the lining. There we go. So that is what I'm calling the clasp. Cut that off, and that's that. Now this is where those 2 pins will come into their own and be really useful. Now I need to keep the pattern in line, and I want to sit the edge of this on the pins and pull that over so it matches. Right, so where are my pins there? I need a couple more pins just to make sure these are lined up as well. Right, a pin there, make sure the edges are nicely aligned, and a pin here sitting on the edge, sitting there. Okay, make sure that's lined up nicely. So hopefully when I look on the screen, yeah, I can see that's a nice line all the way down there. And is it the same this side? That side as well. So where's the big bead? Now the big wooden bead is just going to sit there. So just need to place that there. I think I might just mark that. I'm going to mark that. There you go. Cross or X marks the spot there. Lovely. Because I need to take those out now. Just sew that there. So now I'm going to knot this, because this won't be seen. This will be inside the bag, so it won't be seen. So I'm going to go through the X. You can see the X there. Through the X here. Through there. And I'm just going to sew that in place. Over sew that the same way that I did this, the clasp. Well, I'm calling the clasp. And I'm just going to go in and out through that bead just a couple of times. I think it probably needs to be on a shank as well, so I'll make that the last one, and then I'm going to just tie that into a shank. So all I'm going to do to get the shank is just like you would do a button. Whoops, sorry. I'm going to just tie that round, pull that round there a couple of times, use up my thread, and then I will finish that off inside. Now you can see the stitching inside. Now if you don't like that effect, you can do as I did with the clasp and finish at a start and finish at a distance. Personally, I don't mind that because it isn't going to be seen. There we go. Over sew a couple of times. And that side, yeah, that is actually quite secure. I'm going to put something in there, so open it, and what should I put inside? I should put the pins in there. Oh, I think that stapler might go in there. Oh, there we go. Right, so over we go. That's it, and there we have it. Now I'm not sure whether to put 2 press studs here. Might do that later on, but for the moment I'm calling that finished. Okay, front and back. I don't think the stapler's doing it any favours actually, but there you go, finished. And the closure. Could actually put a handle on there as well. I was debating whether or not to put a necklace handle there, but personally I just think it's nice like that. I prefer a purse that you can hold in your hand, although I probably won't use that as a purse. It'll just be stored with all the other stuff that I've got. So there you go, that is the Sashiko purse, nicely transferred. The slow stitch here, the Sashiko here, lined, and the clasp. Now I think to keep that closed, that is going to have a little bit of stress on it to pull it, but I think once it's padded out, that will happen naturally. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I do hope you give it a go. Didn't take very long at all. So on to the next project now. So as I say, I hope you enjoyed that, and I shall see you very shortly.